A typical marketer, although we always say we lead with data, it's not the marketers that are actually connecting all the data inside of a dashboard, setting up a dashboard, and then maintaining that dashboard ongoing, just to even verify and validate whether the data is being ingested properly. So there has to be a better way.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing Podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm Kevin Lee with the E-Marketing Association. I also run an agency, Did It, which I've been doing since 1996 when we weren't an agency. We're more of a SaaS platform, own a brand, Truth Nutrition, and run a nonprofit as well. And then there's the incubator, which I don't even get into on the podcasts. So I'm super excited, since I live and breathe marketing, to be chatting with Jill Randell and Jeff Cherkassky, who have founded a company to try to automate as much as possible into the things that are automatable within paid media. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. So which of you would like to do the origin story of why you guys decided to go down this path?
It's a pleasure, Kevin, and we'll do a combination. How about that? I'll start it out, and then we'll just quickly do introductions since there's two of us on here. So, Jeff Cherkassky, co-founder, CEO of Fuse. We are your AI media strategist. So, background of me, four-time founder, did pretty well in my last startup. I was a white label fan club for big brands and celebrities. Ended up selling my company in early 2018. Prior to that, I worked at Comic-Con, so familiar with all the comic conventions. And if you ever want to talk cosplayers or pop culture, celebrity gossip around that, around like the cast members of The Walking Dead or the Avengers, let me know. And then after that, I've been a marketer inside of organizations typically, whether my own or others. But after I sold my company, I took a number of months off, and then I went agency side. I started working at a number of different agencies. One agency was an agency called Hawk Media in Santa Monica. Learned the ins and outs about how they work under a guy named Eric Huberman over there. And then after that, I went to a theatrical marketing agency, started running campaigns for like Sony Pictures, Amazon Studios, Lionsgate, and then started just really understanding more and more how agencies work. And it always held true, whether at an agency and marketing teams, working for clients or inside of organizations. And what held true is that marketers always need data teams or tech teams in order to do their job. There's plenty of dashboards out there. There's, Tableau, Power BI, Google Looker, Domo. There's so many of those tools out there, and free publicity for all of them, mentioning all that on the podcast. But the reality is, a typical marketer, although we always say we lead with data, it's not the marketers that are actually connecting all the data inside of a dashboard, setting up a dashboard, and then maintaining that dashboard ongoing, just to even verify and validate whether the data is being ingested properly. So there has to be a better way. These dashboard tools are complicated, and even as an agency, sometimes we charge to set up dashboards for brands and clients, but then the clients don't actually go into the dashboards. All they really want is the analysis and the strategy around what the numbers actually mean. So we built a product called Fuse. And what Fuse does is say, let's take away those dashboards because frankly, there's only a limited amount of data that can be inside of a dashboard anyway, right? So a certain amount of information. And the numbers that are being ingested when GA4 does an update, which frankly, it seems like they do once a month these days, the numbers that are being ingested need to get updated all the time. So it's constant maintenance, takes so much time to even really maintain a dashboard. So let's get rid of dashboards. The way that typically data is being ingested into a dashboard is via what's called an ETL data pipeline, via like the Fivetrans of the world, Airbytes, all of that. All that data being ingested again when there's updates with GA4 or meta ads or whatever it might be. Those numbers also get messed up, so they're not always accurate as they go and get ingested. So again, let's get rid of those ETL pipelines also, and let's core focus on the live data streams, the native data streams themselves, the native data sources. So that's what we do at Fuse. We allow users and marketers to be data engineers, essentially, and data scientists to be able to talk directly, connect directly to their native data sources, talk directly to their native data sources, and come up with strategies that help them scale. We focus and we built our product to specifically focus on answering three core questions that every marketer asks their data, which is the what, what is my data actually saying? So what? So what does this actually mean for my business? And then now what? What should I do next in order to grow? And that's a little bit about our product. And that being said, I can't do any of that without my co-founder and COO, Jill Randell.
All right. I usually don't start here, but I'm going to go back to my college days. My love of marketing came from Indiana University. So we're fresh off of winning the national championship. So just a quick plug for Indiana. Was a marketing major undergrad. Really wanted to, either get involved with advertising or marketing in some way after I graduated, and ended up lucky enough to work at Google early days, about 400 people when I joined out in California. So through my experience there, kind of started to really understand some of the challenges that marketers were facing, especially around, search advertising at the time, which was fairly new. And through that role, realized the importance of agencies when it comes to managing and making strategies for search advertising, and that prompted my move to New York. So I've been in New York ever since. Helped start the first agency partnerships team at Google. It was just the two of us, and we built it into kind of the structure that it is today, where they work with different holding companies. They work with all agencies, large and small. But as Jeff mentioned, really saw firsthand the struggles between, there's all these different channels and so much data, and everyone knows how important it is, but nobody really quite knows what to do with it. So I did that for a few years, then went over to Twitter. So worked on the global partnerships team, working with WPP. And again, kind of some of the same challenges, but on a much, much bigger scale. And then most recently, actually did join a performance agency based out of Indianapolis. And, we had a pretty large team, about 60, 70 people. And again, the consistent challenge was, we had a junior level team, and, they are just kind of pulling together reports, but not really going that extra step of what does the data mean and how do I make meaningful recommendations to my clients that are going to move the business. So long story short, I met Jeff, and he walked me through this big vision of what Fuse is, and I thought, wow, this needs to exist. The timing is right with AI technology, and we can actually build this from the ground up. And fast forward to today, and we have a product, and we're helping marketers solve some of these data challenges. So that's my story.
Great. So let's jump into the when you have to wear the marketing hat for yourselves, right? You guys had to decide, or maybe are still deciding, what your ICPs are, right? Agencies, large and small, maybe direct to client in some instances where there's an opportunity there. So you had seen it from platform side. You'd seen it, in Jeff, in your case, from sometimes working directly with a brand or business, and then you've obviously seen it from all of those angles, right? So as you were building the platform, you were clearly sort of thinking through the ICPs as well as the costs of acquisition for those different ICPs, right? What's the CAC to LTV ratio going to look like for these different groups? You sell an agency, you've got, 12, 15, 100 brands on there at the same time. You sell a brand, that's just the brand. So how did you guys go through thinking through what your marketing plan would look like from a paid media perspective and also from an earned media perspective? Because, you know, you can get pretty far with paid media only, but, people start to research companies and sort of need to have an earned media footprint too. So I'd love to think through, or have you walk through when you ate your own dog food, right? And became the marketers for yourselves, how you thought that through.
Yeah, great question. Jill, I'll start and then you can kind of chime in and jump in from there. So, AI tools right now are very general purpose. In our experience, the ones that really are standing out are the ones that are specific for a focus and for a certain segment of people. Or a professional group if it's for B2B perspective. For us, we're no different. Yeah, we do have users that are everyone from agencies, small to enterprise, to in-house marketing teams. But what we've done is built out this ICP that it's based off data sources that are connected in order to really, truly hone in on, who we should be targeting. So, as an example, one of our newer data sources that's incredibly advanced is your Shopify integration. By connecting your Shopify integration, that's not for just any agency, perhaps an agency that is really focused on direct to consumer side, but really it's for a very large percent of e-commerce brands in market today. Shopify's basic analytics are very fragmented and very, very difficult to use. One marketer we were just talking to said that you need a data science degree in order to even understand Shopify's analytics. With Fuse, you don't. With Fuse, you can understand things such as revenue, churn, and how all of your Shopify inventory analytics and everything around your store compare to all of your performance metrics as well through our advanced Meta, Google Ads, TikTok, and LinkedIn ads, for example, wherever you're running everything. So focusing on the direct-to-consumer side has truly been really a differentiator for us. Where we see so many of these AI for BI tools that are, they even say they're built for B2B enterprise, where we actually like to be available and accessible for all. We have subscription plans that start at $49 a month, and it just scales up from there based off usage. We like that lovable model. We don't know what lovable churn is, and I don't know if anybody does, but Lovable has a whole lot of subscribers, and they started with start small and scale up, keep using the product, and grow from there. We like that too from a business perspective, and that's how we're looking at when it comes to our ICP, and that's how we choose what data sources are next. We're not using any ETL pipelines. I mentioned that already. So in order to connect the data source, it takes us about 2, maybe 3 weeks in order to connect and have a new data source live, depending sometimes on the complexities of those. And the reason why is because they're incredibly advanced. We've done, we have this thing called our proprietary semantic intelligence layer, which is just a fancy word of our glossary. Our glossary represents thousands and thousands of marketing terms for each data source, and then questions, and then thousands of questions, and follow questions to those questions, and follow questions to those follow questions, and then calculations and computations that doesn't just look at all of the metrics that are available in any data source, like a Shopify, but how that compares to all of your other data sources as well. So to answer your question, sorry, I think I might be going on a little bit of a kind of a rabbit hole here. But to answer your question, we're specifically focusing on the direct-to-consumer side. That's been truly helpful. Although we have users that come in with that are B2B as well. We like to have that focus when it comes to the paid media side around the direct-to-consumer side because from an AI marketing standpoint, it seems fairly underserved. Even if you do a quick search on Shopify's App Store, which we're about to be on, there's a couple stores on there and they're really built for enterprise. Nothing quite like us out there. So we're going that route.
Well, you can certainly get a thumbs up from me on how unusable Shopify's analytics are. And I've had to build some things custom myself because owning a brand, Truth Nutrition, that's on both FBA and Shopify, you really need to have secondary data coming out of there. So I'd love to hear you, given that you sort of defined your ICP pretty tightly around sort of the DTC agencies and brands, right? Because and the Shopify integration is a big part of that. There's sort of an ecosystem of, let's call them earned media, everything from experts within that ecosystem to publications and trade shows and everything. And so given that that's a pretty tightly defined ICP, I'd love to hear how, from an earned media perspective, what did your partnership strategy look like? Are you focusing on trying to get publicity within, industry trade magazines and blogs and such that are very specific to that? Or are you also simultaneously going after the ad ages and ad weeks of the world, right? That cover that, right? But there's somebody who has that as their beat, right? But it's not the overall ICP of the readership, right? So you have to sort of figure out what your earned media strategy looks like, especially in the world of GEO, right? Is now earned media drives visibility within ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and it's SEO is still there fundamentally, but you now have this GEO layer as well. So how did you think through your strategy from a earned visibility perspective?
I'm gonna let Jill start that out, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
Kevin. Go ahead,
happy to
please.
start. And yeah, I think to be fully transparent, we are still working through exactly that. So, at the end of the day, it comes, back to building trust with our users and building awareness to help build that trust. And so we are currently engaging with a PR strategist who's amazing, and she's got relationships with all of the key, industry trades from a broad level. So we're going to start there in terms of creating that awareness, generating that trust and, recognition around our brand and our capabilities. And then right now we are going through that exercise of figuring out which are the right industry specific trades when it comes to retail and e-commerce, and going after those and creating the strategy around that. So open to suggestions there. I would love to pick your brain further, but yeah, I mean, we do see this as a growing area. And so that it just based on, everything that we've done so far and the conversations we've had, this makes the most sense in terms of where we see success.
I'll just add to that, if that's okay.
Sure.
So we were at CES about a week and a half ago. Was that last week, Jill? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. So a lot happens in a week. So we were at CES and just a whole lot of meetings, and a lot of our investors were there as well. So when it comes to the earned media and our pipeline, I will say, especially on the enterprise side, just the introductions and just being so strategic with the people that are involved in our company, whether, starting with Jill and I and the team that we've built, all the way to the investors and advisors that we have. Having six ex-Googlers, including one of the founding team members of Google Analytics, certainly helps. And then, a number of other people that, were at CES that just have huge networks that, we had set meetings, a whole bunch of them. I think it was like 23 meetings, but just standing there at the Aria and just meeting one person, then another, then another. And you could just stand there and just have a whole pipeline for the entire year. So CES and events have certainly helped a good amount. And then when it comes to the press, as Jill mentioned, we have some huge news coming soon, part of that press release. So we're very excited about that. And then, yeah, as Jill mentioned, we're looking to hire a fractional CMO. So to all your listeners out there, I know there's a bunch of marketers out there. We do have a very good understanding of who our ICP is. We have some incredible use cases around our customers. We went the whole land and expand, start with one user, and then one of our clients, for example, is I don't know if I should mention their name yet, but anyway, so they started with one user as an in-house marketing team, then they went into five, and now we're onboarding all 27 of their in-house marketing team members inside of our product. So, now it's just about getting more of those and, bringing in somebody else to help us with that while we're working on the operational stuff inside the company would be tremendously helpful. So to all your listeners, if there are any marketers out there that are looking for some new business, please reach out.
Yeah, I'll certainly validate the resurgence of events as key in
Totally.
marketing for those of us who are in B2B, right? We're trying to reach other B2B marketer, or we're trying to market to other businesses. It was the reason I was an investor in Possible, the Possible conference, which is down in Miami every year. They already exited, and it's a really interesting exit structure from the perspective of all of us investors as well. So that's coming up. It's not CES, right? But it's actually in some cases because it's not a transformation of the consumer electronics show into a marketing bolt-on, right? They're all about marketing.
So,
More B2C,
some
big brands, but they have some B2B folks there. So that. And I'm also an investor in events.com. So I'm a huge. I've moved a bunch of chips into the events category and already seen that work. But I'd love to jump over into some of the deep dive data challenges that folks have at agencies when they're stewarding budgets for clients, right? Is a lot of the platforms, whether they're the performance-based channels like the affiliate or influencer slash affiliate platforms like Impact, Rakuten, et cetera, CJ, these these platforms all love to take credit, right? Because they've got the thank you page pixeled. Often the CTV platform has the thank you page pixeled. If you're using a different DSP for the purposes of display media, it's got the thank you page pixeled. And then search and social have the thank you page pixeled, right? And search tends to be great at demand harvesting, particularly on certain keywords. And so it's often the last click attribution. And Jill, as you know, those of us in search lived off of that, just how great search was at demand harvesting and maybe even a couple of steps up into the funnel, right? And then convincing marketers to spend further up into the funnel in search was always a challenge because they were so fixated on that last click attribution. But people don't, only live at the demand harvest side, right? Go to market strategies. And even in B2B, they call it demand gen, right? They don't call it demand harvesting because you need to get the word out, right? You need to let people know that you're out there. So you guys have to figure out how to reconcile the platform reporting is basically going to say everybody takes credit for that lead or everybody takes credit for that sale. Of course, the truth is a lot of influences really caused me to want to buy that stimulant-free pre-workout from Truth Nutrition, right? And so then you've got, like in some cases, for example, for Truth Nutrition, you've got this sort of black hole that exists in FBA, right? So we actually do more sales through FBA than we do through our Shopify store. So a lot of the marketing that we do, paid and earned, ends up manifesting itself in a channel we can barely measure at all, right? So the essence of that question really is like you've got different cookie expirations. You've got non-cookie based attribution that happens in Meta and other platforms. And if you were to look at each of the individual platforms reporting, you couldn't make head or tails of it. So how do you guys then ingest all of that data and make heads or tails of it, given the triple counting, quadruple counting, you'll have to, look at timestamps and geographies and IP addresses and use all the signal you can to advise the agency. Well, actually, if you took another $1,000 out of this and put it over here, it would work much harder for you, right? Which is in the end what the agency or client wants, right? They want to understand that.
Ah, attribution. Always fun, right? So yeah, great question. And the benefit, the true benefit of connecting natively to the live data sources and how we look at things is that we're looking at every metric that is absolutely available. Like Google Analytics, for example, has over 4,000 metrics that are available that you can't just put inside of a dashboard when it comes to looking at attribution. Meta ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, everyone's trying to claim attribution for, a click or a sale or whatever it might be. We're not looking for their opinions. We're looking at timestamps directly through those platforms. And we're looking at all of the live data. That's what our agents are doing, looking at all the live data that is available, thousands and thousands and thousands of data rows, and giving you that answer instantly by looking at those timestamps. So that's how we do it when it comes to attribution. Timestamps don't lie. Data sources do, unfortunately. Meta always wants to claim that they're the sale. But timestamps don't lie of when somebody actually clicked and when somebody actually bought the product and or purchased the item. So that's how we look at that when it comes to attribution. So yeah, it's all about the live up to the hour data. We're making it so that you don't have to log into your GA4 or your analytics accounts or your ads accounts really ever again. That's where Fuse really kind of stands apart and makes it so that it can answer those questions for you with full guaranteed 100% accuracy.
So yeah, the timestamps is something that we've experimented with ourselves, right? Didn't get a chance to prototype this, but we were actually discussing whether or not you could use timestamp data and pull out of Amazon FBA, right?
Hmm.
And try to understand whether or not things that you were engaged in doing might actually be resulting in Amazon purchases. But and let's say marketplaces as a whole, right? Amazon happens to be the biggest marketplace, but
Right.
then you got Walmart and you've got some others, potentially even eBay, right? And
Yeah.
so each of them have different levels of data transparency that are available. Some of them you can make yourself your own affiliate, right? Or use other things to use turn on attribution, for example, within Amazon FBA and get some data back there. So I'd love to hear how you guys are thinking that through because a lot of your ICP are simultaneously marketplace selling and direct selling.
For sure. I mean, we're going to have more and more data sources, as we mentioned. We're bringing in new data sources every 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on the complexity. So we'll have the Amazon DSP, and we'll start adding in more and more data sources on that end. Right now, it's focusing on performance, and then when it comes to performance, comparing that with Shopify and how you're in, inventory and Shopify stores specifically through there. Of course, you can upload different data points and different sheets and CSVs if you'd like, but the reality is the connecting the data sources are what represent the full accuracy and represent that you can just talk to all of your data instantly directly through the product. So we'll get to answering your question very soon. We'll do a follow-up maybe podcast in a few months to be able to answer that question a little better for you when it comes to all the different DSPs out there. But for now, it's focusing on the Shopify side. So that's how we're looking at when it comes to any sales that are through your Shopify store, or sales that are coming in through your ads perspectives. That's how we're looking at that.
So, final question, really, what should folks in DTC, that are your ICP, be thinking about for this upcoming year that we didn't discuss specific, obviously, to your program or platform? Big picture, what should they be thinking of? They're all in pretty competitive markets,
Yep.
right? And so, what should they be thinking about? How should they be planning out their year to make sure that they get the most value out of the year?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, everybody is testing AI in some way, one way or the other. We're finding a lot of users, a lot of organizations are trying to download as much data as possible and put into ChatGPT and talk to it. It's not really something you should be doing, privacy purposes, of course. And then you can't just download all your data and put it into, an AI. You could download some of the data, and then you have to confirm whether the roads are even accurate in the first place and all that. So, really, to answer your question, it's test more products that are specific for you and that are built and purpose built for you. Because we all know that everybody's under a whole lot of, they're not just testing, they're being forced to test. Board CEOs, board members, they're all pushing for more and more organizations to be using AI. And if you're not implementing and integrating AI inside of your product, your competitors are. So you better be in some way with your company using AI, whatever that means. So the question is, which one is built for you? Because there's a ton of general purpose ones out there. There's a ton of ones that will promise the world, and then you start diving in, and they're just kind of general purpose, and it's not really the one that's built for you. So my recommendation is find the one that's built specifically for you, and use it when it comes to things that you do every single day or that your teams do every single day, from analysis to how your campaigns are performing to reporting to those executive level leadership, your CEO, your CMO, CEO, your shareholders, your board members, to just understanding what's going on a up to the hour or day-to-day basis of everything that you're doing when it comes to your um, digital campaigns, digital performance. Jill, I don't know if you want to add to that, please.
Yeah. No, I think that, I always agree with the test and learn approach. So completely agree. And I think to expand a little bit around, if I'm a CMO of a company, I'm thinking about where are my pain points? Where can I find more efficiencies? But also, how can I get ahead of the trends? How can I find insights sooner and take action and make decisions on that? So if I'm evaluating all the solutions out there, and I know a lot of people are kind of trying to figure out, like, what do I do with it? They know AI is important, but they don't know exactly how to action on it. So test and learn, figure out which ones match up against your, biggest pain points, your biggest problems. Figure out how they can cut your reporting time in half or greater. And how can I identify those key trends in my specific market so that I can dial up or dial down my marketing appropriately. And that's what we do.
Great. Well, one bonus question that you both mentioned testing, and one of the big elements of testing as it relates to squeezing more juice out of budget is getting the right creative in front of the right audience at the right time,
Yeah,
right? And a lot of the platforms, the creative portion of it is sort of way out in left field. Like once in a while, we get around to making new creative, or we haven't really thought through how our creative should resonate differently against different target audiences for that DTC brand, right? And yet, changes in creative can end up having double-digit improvements
definitely.
in efficiency of a campaign, right? Sometimes platform-specific creative. So for 2026, given the fact that now one extra tool in the tool chest as it relates to creative is AI, maybe not AI generated, but certainly AI related ideation, right? You can ideate around creative messaging more effectively with AI than you could otherwise, because to some extent the LLM models are almost like a built-in focus group, right? Because they've ingested so much information that you can almost use them to predict, what people might respond to. So, given the importance of getting the right creative at the right time in front of the right audience, in order for your technology or other optimization technologies to squeeze more efficiency out of a channel, how should folks be thinking about creative, right, this year? Maybe differently than previously.
That's a great question. I feel like we could have a whole nother podcast topic on that. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I think just exactly what you said. I mean, AI allows you to test and learn so much faster and get far more insights. Today you can, have that focus group and run different messaging against that, and that's incredibly powerful. For our product, what right now what we're doing is just helping you make, understand that performance faster in the real world after you've already, implemented the new messaging or creative, per platform. So we allow you to understand faster what those different messages look like. But from a focus group perspective, yeah, I know like there are certainly, other tools and, things like ChatGPT that can help you create that instantly. I don't
Any
know if Jeff
final
has
thoughts
any
on
thoughts on
that,
that.
Jeff, as far
Yeah,
as
my
creative?
added thought is we're testing right now Google's Nano Banana, and that is not just helping with it could help with your creative, but what it's really helping with is the creative presentations that you need to present in order to share how you're actually performing. So of course it could recreate your creatives for you, but we're more on the data science side to understand how your creative is performing altogether. And it will give you recommendations of what you should be doing next, which is great. And that's what I mean by, AI tools that are specifically trained for you, not just general purpose ones like ChatGPT or even Anthropic or pick your favorite LLM. They'll give you that focus group, but is it a focus group that is primarily specifically around your brand and everything around that information? I guess you can upload some info, but does it really have that advanced contextual info around who you are and that glossary that's built in around how to really identify your CAC to LTV ratio? The answer is probably not. And LLMs are notoriously terrible at math. And that's where our product comes in to be able to answer questions like that and to be able to really look at your creative and identify not just how they're performing, but what you should be doing next in order to update that creative. That said, I bring up the Nano Banana because then it's about, okay, you have all this analysis, you have all this data. What do you do with it? You need to present it to somebody. So our presentation software tool inside of our product is pretty incredible, and welcome anybody to come on in and demo it, and we'd love to show it to everyone.
Great, thanks, guys. I appreciate you sharing your journey and the best practices as it relates to, both, use of tools like yours, as well as in general. Looking forward to having you guys on again in the future.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Always a pleasure.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.